Thanks. Who's next?
Can Dean bring us Harley in, Julia?
Harold, come on up.
How did I take the mic back over here? We'll reach that way. Okay. Well, I do have a number of hobbies probably. I have not taken up golf yet because my father-in-law always says that anybody who golfs has too much money. So, so I didn't want to give that appearance to him. So I wanted to look for something that I could do almost anywhere. And so a few years ago, I really started doing quite a bit of photography. Now, everything that I brought is all dated 10, 12 years ago. And that's really because the last years, for some reason or other, I haven't had much time to really, focus on on a photo. So I haven't had the time. But there's a couple of them here. I laid them out on the table. I'll just hold them up. Now there should be some from this area that might recognize this house. It is not anymore. Hey, Aunt Katie, you recognize it?
Isn't that her? No, it isn't.
No.
Stuart's house.
No. This house is no longer standing, but this is the house where I was born, south of Aurora Center. I was back a few years ago, and then it was at standing yet in this condition, so I took that one and had that framed. It now hangs in my basement. And then this is also a local photo in this area. Now you're not going to be able to drive around anymore and find it either. Yes, this was just across the road south from Uncle Junior and Aunt Alpha. Was the it's Sam and Sarah's farm at this time. The building and the windmill were still there.
Now we live in a tent.
And this was Christmas of '87. When that night, well, actually it was a couple nights. It must have been the 28th of December because we didn't get here for Christmas at that time. We came for Dad's birthday. There was very heavy frost that night, and the next morning everything was just the most beautiful. The entire countryside was the most beautiful white that you could imagine. And this was our farmhouse, my home. Now, okay, these are a couple that I cherish today, and this was that morning when the frost was very heavy. It was Dad's 73rd birthday, and the reason that I have both pictures here, it was the same slide, but this one was enlarged in the normal manner where the slide is reproduced to a 5x7 inner negative, as the photo processors call it, and then from there it is put onto the printed paper of this size, because you have to make the inner negative, because otherwise the picture will become very grainy. Then I wasn't totally, it was good quality, but I took it again then to a processor that does sebachrome, which produces the enlargement directly off of the slide in a glossy. And so you can see the difference in the processing. Now in photography, There are a lot of variables. You know, sometimes when you get your pictures or photos back, you say, you know, boy, I thought I did a better job than this, but and it's probably true, you probably did, because there are a lot of variables also in the processing and the printing. And if you think that you have one that you know, you were not pleased with, maybe it should be taken to another processor and say, you know, you print this and see how you see it. Then I did bring, I'm not going to take a lot of your time explaining each one of this. I do have some others here that, few of them taken around Omaha. Well, here's a couple. Carol and I were in New Orleans for a, she was there for a reading convention that I went along, and that is a fireboat that was escorting a British liner coming in. It was, yeah, it was leading the way for that. Oh, this is just a sunset that I took off of the roof of the hospital that I work at. I thought it was just a beautiful sunset that night. So. And you're probably wondering why there's a few that have titles under them. I did enter a couple of these in a photo contest at the hospital where I worked, and you had to give a name to the photo. This is an old steam engine. As most of you know, I've always loved large, heavy equipment, and this old steam engine was being brought by the UP Railroad from North Platte into Omaha. And I waited at a crossing or a street that I knew that the train would have to cross. And I was able to capture that and entitled that one Coming Home, because that engine is no longer in service. So I will just leave these others on the table. There's, I do have an album with a few of those in. There's one that might be of interest to us. Well, here's the one of the present Highway 44 bridge west of Platte. Again, this one is about 12 years old. And it was, we were out there for a cookout picnic one night, and the sun was shining on it just perfectly that it appears to be a lighted bridge. This one is a stained glass window at Central College, Pella, Iowa. I'm not sure what the top was. The bottom says it's in Dutch, Eendracht maakt maak. And I think that is Unity makes for might. Is that?
Reformed Church seal.
It is the Reformed Church seal, yes. Unity makes might. That's, yes, okay. Then this spring I started something else. I've always had a you know, a joy or pleasure in welding. I should have, I guess, instead of going off to college, I should have become Uncle Garrett's apprentice. I would have loved that very much and taken the shop over. But when we were in Phoenix, we saw some Western style furniture that is priced to me very highly out there, very expensive, and it's something that could be done quite easily. And I saw some used horseshoes in an antique shop, so my suitcase was heavy coming home from Phoenix. It had 20 horseshoes in it. But then I found these in a farm supply store in Omaha, plain old horseshoes for a little over $1 a piece, that now I've been cutting them apart and then re-welding them, making wall hangers for my garden tools, shovels, rakes. I made coat racks out of them, or I'll extend them out, and also make them for cord hangers, hose hangers, things like that. So that's what I'm, playing with now. So I've always got something, but I haven't taken up golf yet.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you. Very good. Who's next?
Why don't you ask Matt Huseman to bring in some of his tool collection? He, he's a little bit like I am. I hope Irene will forgive me, but he's a little bit henpecked. He took his tool, just a few of his tool collection along. But then Irene told him, well, don't overdo it. And then he brought in 2 wrenches, one of which I had found and gave to him. But I think he's got more, and it's a unique hobby, I believe. But I'd like to see him. Can't you get a few more, Matt?
I'll bring a few in. These 2 collecting antique tools. And now I'm probably doing it all wrong. I want to restore them back to where they're shiny.
Oh.
People say that's the wrong way, and it might be, but white vinegar.
What about the microphone? Can they hear you in the back?
I don't know. Can they? Irene can, and she doesn't want me to talk.
See what I was trying to say.
The old-timer told me about white vinegar. Soak them in there. It doesn't happen by itself. A lot of elbow grease. The fun part is when you finally put a set together. Uncle Junior gave me this one. Now he'll tell you more. And I found this other one on a different auction, and the numbers are in sequence. 90, 257, and this one is 90, 258. 2 entirely different places, but they're a set. And Uncle Junior will explain where this set belongs, because it's back to the Wolbrink history. And I'll bring the others in, but
you get some more.
no, I'll bring them in just for a few and set them up here. We can look at them later. Junior will tell. I want to hear this of Junior, so. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
They're in.
I don't know if I need the microphone. It maybe don't hurt, but well, Matt's a kind of a favorite nephew, and I know he's collecting tools, and we got a lot of old junk around, and I kind of watched a little, and I had found one thing, and I thought there wouldn't be another one like it, and I gave that to Matt, and yeah, I think we should pass it around. But anyway, it says on here, spark plug. This end is for spark plug, and this is for generator nut, and there is cylinder stud and battery nut. Well, this was hanging where the old 32 light plant was located in the basement, and it hung there ever since we got REA, so I know what it's for. But then Matt picked up, there must have been 2 wrenches at one time, and I think we'll pass them around so you can look at it. But yeah, the unique thing is that the serial numbers, yeah, I don't know, anyway, they're in order. The numbers are in order. And I think I'm going to start it by the south table here and give everybody a chance to look at them. And yeah, hobbies, everybody's got something different, and it depends what you're interested in, I guess.
I've got some up here, but we'll look at those later. There was one other little amusing thing. Uncle Richard's sale. son from Oregon. Is his wife here?
Oh, no, that was Darlene and Gary.
Darlene and Gary. There was a Model T Ford Jack, an old screw type Jack. And I think there were 2 people on that sale that knew what that was. And we went nose to nose. At the auction. Now for Hollanders, we understand. You know, I paid $24 for that Model T Jack. About a week ago, I bought a second one for $3. Sometimes, but Irene didn't know all of this until now.
Thanks for doing that.
I was gonna,
You got an extra $1 because of that.
Yes.
got our inheritance.
I'll leave
You're
them.
keeping the first one up.
Yes, it is. I'll leave these over here. We'll go on to the next.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, man. Does everybody remember the old light plant, the pipe that stuck out of the ground outside the kitchen? And when it was running, pump, 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 you could put your hand on that and never stop it.
Yeah, who tried? Who tried to stop it?
I don't know. Who else has something? Paul, you were talking a little bit about writing. Let's hear some.
I'm almost embarrassed after interesting tools and history of cookie cutters and that sort of thing, but since I was the one, apparently, Adrian, who prompted this, I'll at least provide some evidence of the fact that I enjoy writing, and once in a while it finds its way between covers. This was a book published a couple of years ago for English teachers by the National Council of Teachers of English, and it's called Those Who Do Can. And actually, the 2 guys who collected the articles are both friends. One teaches at Michigan State, and the other at Central Michigan University. But I have 2 essays in here, and this was the book I grabbed. It's no big deal, believe me, but it is evidence, at least, that I enjoy writing and do that. And of course, I teach AP English, and so as an English teacher, I should be a writer. I don't even know that it qualifies as a hobby. You know, it's sort of like milking cows or something, but here it is.
Who's next? Ruth.
I tried to find out for sure. My interest, I guess, is quilting, and I had to think Paul and Adrian both think that runs in the family. You work at what you do, and you're not sure which is the hobby and which is the work. But this is one of my doll quilts, and I am sure that either Aunt Katie or Aunt Sarah made it for me. And it's had a lot of loving use. And I heard some of them say this afternoon, well, they weren't quilters. Well, a couple years ago I joined a quilt guild, and this is a quilt. So, you know, more of you probably are quilters than what you thought. And from there, this is one of them that I made, and at that time I would have said I did cross stitch. And I made a crib blanket before our first child was born, which is Ron. And from there things just kind of grow, and at one point I said I would never get a bed quilt done, they're too big. So instead I made the jacket. You make the fabric and then you cut out the jacket. Now one of the boys pointed out to me that you make more than a quilt when you're making a jacket. And then the children started, and many of you are in on that, and that one has not been finished. There's strips of it, and that's the anniversary quilt, and it actually will be larger than a queen size when it's finished. And so I just kind of, I was asked to make a bulletin board in church, and because I think and work in fabric, I'm not sure that I know anything else, and so the Sunbonnet Sue is on the spiritual line. And I just think even after we leave here tonight, you know, what glorious things, and we will be refreshed. And going home and thinking about the heritage that we have. And then of course the spiritual too, which is the Earth Angel, probably on the other side, some real and some not realistic. And the one hanging in the green and the red and the blue, that one comes from Holland, the idea. It came over the internet and was done as a mystery quilt. And I really got it through the quilt guild, but you're only given that you're supposed to buy 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 greens, and you don't have any idea what you're putting together. And it's interesting, there's only a few of us that are Dutch, and we have really enjoyed that quilt. Some of them have made comments about it, but I don't think they see all the pinwheels and the tulips and the beauty that we from Holland might see. And one of the reasons that the anniversary quilt is not done, my new challenge is the flower basket. And that is 1 1/8 inch squares that have been put together. There's over 2,000 of them. Oh. There's 44, 45 rows across, and it's 54 rows deep. And the fabric around the edge is called the challenge, and it's entered in a contest. It's supposed to be done for the Clay County Fair. So if you know, regardless of what you do, and I don't know either, I work 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, sewing. And I'm not sure if that's the practice, or if what I have here is the practice. And it's like books. You have some things in bags to do later.
Daryl, do you collect anything? Daryl.
Just a few old Oliver things. I didn't really
Want to tell us about that? There's a connection between those Oliver things and Lois and Alan's dad. I didn't mean to take you by surprise, but I've got some inside information.
really didn't, oh, okay. I really wasn't figured on this, but my wife just reminded me about something, but locals here all know I grew up with Oliver tractors, and it's always kind of stuck with me, and I worked for the Oliver dealer down in Armour, and so I got a little place in my heart for Oliver tractors, so kind of watch for that kind of stuff, and I got on the internet, and there's some discussion groups and all that, and I'm pretty familiar with that kind of stuff, so it's of interest to me. But my wife just reminded me of something, and now I wish I would have taken along, but for those of you who know my dad, he has a special hat that he wears in the summertime. And when we were down in Des Moines, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I guess, 2 years ago, we was at, went to Winterstein, where's that place out where they, Winterset. Actually, it was where the bridges are at. But anyway, we were going to stop for something to eat, I believe it was. And there was an antique store. It was closed, but it had this particular hat. I don't know, does it have a special name, Dad? It's Safari hat or something. I don't know, but Dad's always wore those. Well, here was one that had the Oliver symbol on it, and apparently it was, they had them for sale or something through the Oliver Corporation. The fellow was in the back. We finally got his attention, and he finally opened up for us. I paid, I think, $55 for that. Like the most I ever paid for anything. But anyway, we ended up with that hat just because of the significance that Dad wears, and then it had the Oliver symbol. So there's some little things like that we kind of get into. So.
Oh, that's great. Can you top that, Bonnie?
We don't have a lot of time for hobbies with 6 kids and milk cows, so. But one favorite thing that we like to do as a family is travel, and that's something we don't do a lot either, because if you have milk cows, it's hard to get away. But we did once, a special time that we had last summer was being able to go to Banff in Canada, and we had everybody along, so we had 8 people in our van, and we camped and cooked, so that didn't leave much room for clothes. But we had a good time, and like all vacations, none of them are perfect, but by the time you come home, you either forget the bad things or can laugh about them, and the kids had a lot of good memories from that. So.
Is it time for music?
Well, if everybody else is done.
Oh, you want to be last?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just a little bit here, Dave.
Good.
Kind of got into doing a little bit of woodworking. In fact, I got a card from one of our children for my birthday that said, now that Dad has got his little bookshelf done, he only needs 20,000 more projects to justify the cost of his tools. So I got into a few little Tinkerite type things, and I enjoy woodworking. And this is one of the little things that I've made. It's not professional by any means, but it's something that I really enjoy. And my garage no longer has a place for the car. Full of tools. So they're right. They do have to justify. You have to make a lot of things to justify the cost of the vehicle. Things like that. I usually don't end up with one. I end up with four. One for each one of the children. So their houses are cluttered just like mine.
There are other quilts. Whose work are they? Do you want to talk about them?
I did the one that's in the corner there. That is Phyllis's. She hasn't seen it since it's been quilted. But I started that when she was about 2 years old. And I said I'll be working on this, I bet, when my grandchildren are walking around. And I just got it finished, and Angela's going to be a senior this year. So I embroidered it and had Sarah DeBoer put it together. And the lady Zane Harrison quilted it, and then Sarah and Marie have a hand in that. And it had Marie bound sides. But I've got one started for the other two children too.
Lois.
Since I flew out, I really don't have anything big to share, but I haven't been able to share my kids, so I didn't even have a family picture, but I have just a couple that I'll just share with you. I promise not very many. Okay, if you want to just those are fine, and when you feel you need to pick them out. That is our son, and I'm not sure, this is Rick, who's 21, and it's a little, you can hardly see, but that is his mom that he has tucked under his arm. I don't think that he's got Wolbrink jeans. And this is Peter, and he's 17, and I don't think he's got Wolbrink hair. And he's smaller than his brother. And then the next picture has somebody on there that actually dared to visit in Connecticut. Okay, the two people on the right, it's our daughter Heather, who's 24, and her fiance Ryan, who we're delighted to have in our family, and then Paul and Marianne Youngnickel came to visit us. It's just about 1 month ago, and we were lucky enough to have them in our home. And I thought that I'd bring them here to share with you. And I didn't have one family picture, so I had to do this piece by piece. John and I were at a wedding last weekend, so I had to include him too, and my husband John. And I think that we haven't really sat down long enough to have any hobbies, because our family activity is a sport of some kind. In the winter we ski, we follow our kids around a great deal with playing their sports. Rick is a football player at Middlebury College in Vermont. Pete is a soccer player and lacrosse player, which I don't think is played here. And Heather coaches. She's in the development office at a private girls' school, and she coaches in the fall. She coaches girls field hockey, and John and I think we can keep up once in a while. We sail with them, we ski with them, we golf with them, and we have a good time. And we don't sit down long enough to produce these talented things that you all do. But I just wanted to share that much.
I don't know if they remember this. And then there's a few of Grandpa and Grandma Wolbrink too. If you want to show them.
Do you want to explain as I go, or should I just stick them in there?
Just stick them in there.
Sure. You hold that door for me.
The door.
Yeah, that's right, Ed. There we go. Okay.
That used to be thrashing.
It doesn't show the hot pickies though.
No. And it was worse. Junior remembers a little of it, don't you, Junior? Mary's talking to you.
Okay. What did she say?
What did you say, Marie? Do you remember a little of it, Junior?
Yeah, I said right away, well, that was when John and I thrashed, because there's a VAC on there, and that was our power at that time. We had, at times we had a two-man thrashing crew, and with John and I. Times we had John Groon in our thrash run. So John Groon had an S12, and we had VACs. If any of you are acquainted with tractors, that wasn't big stuff.
No, that wasn't. This is one of our outings, I think. Junior is on here, I think, and Grandpa and Grandma. Nancy is right up from here. We used to go on outings, you know, John and I, and Grandpa and Grandma and Junior, and sometimes Sarah was with the two yet, I believe. And so we always had to take a few pictures.
I think the date says 1948.
This is some of the real old ones. I don't know who these are. Maybe you're Sarah can tell us.
could you tell that?
Was that with their 50th anniversary, maybe? I do have one thing, and I think that's kind of something special too. John kept a diary ever since 1930. And he's kept it up until he couldn't anymore, and I've been keeping it. That's quite a few years.
A diary since 1930.
Wow. I do remember with birthday parties when John would pull out his diary. Hear what he had written, what they had done in school that day.
It's amazing. How many more uncles and aunts, or the brothers and the 10 brothers and sisters? How many more kept that religiously kept that diary? I know that our father did.
My mom kept one before I was born.
Your mother did.
Yeah.
Any of the others?
She still does.
Yeah.
She missed a year or year and a half when she was young.
Aunt Sarah, you still do?
But I did miss a few years when the kids were little, and I'm sorry about that. I have one too, but not way back in 1930.
When did you start?
I don't know.
I think, and Gideon kept one from about 1930, I would guess, all the way up during the 80s.
I'm amazed that it's such a literary family. When Grandpa came here when he was 8 years old, is that right, I believe?
Yep.
And probably went to school a little bit, but I think the 1880 census, he would have been 15 years old. And he's enumerated in the 1880 census at the archives, is that what you call it? As a house builder in another family that he was living there as a house builder when he was 15 years old. And somewhere along the line he learned to write very well and pass on that, and I don't mean to give the credit to him alone, Grandma of course also, but the two of them together passed on that value.
Here is some little box that Aunt Marie's are in.
Some of Aunt Marie's quilts there?
Yeah, quilt blocks.
You're over there, you can understand.
This is slightly forward-looking, but for someone who's really got a lot of time and wants to get involved in a hobby, it would be really fun to secure the domain name www.wolbrink.com or www.jacobandhattie.com or something like that, and to have some of these photos scanned in, some of the stories that were told tonight, some diary entries from selected diaries and all of that. It'd just be a really fun place to go. It would be a great bonding thing for this group. On the other hand, there's more time involved in doing that, I think, even than one incredibly elaborate Fran quilt. You know, it would probably take dozens and dozens and hundreds of hours to get that up. It'd be nice.
So who has the time? Who's the volunteer for that? So who's next? We want to leave a little bit of time to talk still, and we have a musical treat tonight, and then we have to do, as I was told, a little business. So, Carol, I think it's your turn. Oh, Karen. Please. Carol wants to be last. Karen.
I think our family and Sarah Norval's family have something real special here today that a lot of you don't have, and I really didn't think about it too much until we got home this afternoon from the picnic. We were talking a little bit, and we have both of our parents here yet, and I think that's great, and I know you all miss yours very much, and Dad makes a little bit of fun of it once in a while, how he gets a little henpecked, and Mom sometimes has a little reason to be a little crappy. I'm kind of like him. I lived at home quite a while, so I know a lot that went on there. But they're going to be married 40 years, November 17, and I'm not sure how we're going to celebrate with them, but a lot of you aren't going to be here to celebrate with us, and I think maybe if we'd been thinking a little bit, we probably would have planned something that you could have helped us celebrate. But anyway, I want you to know that they're going to be married 40 years, and 40 years, a lot of people make it a lot more than 40 years. Some of your parents were married 50 years, but Dad got married when he was a little bit older, and I'm going to kind of be in the same boat, I think. Dad says he was still too young. I don't know about that. Being married is great. I used to have some hobbies. I had a lot of time, and I got married, and we have a couple teenagers in the house, and they're involved in sports and music, and we like to go to their activities, and now we have Michael, and he keeps me busy, and I love it. I love being a mom. And Mom and Dad, they love being parents too. We just know that by the love that we grew up with, taking us to church and being involved with 4-H and just allowing us to grow up in a Christian home. Anyway, I wanted to recognize that tonight. That Mom's been a Wolbrink for just about 40 years now.
I have to add a footnote to that my folks have just been married 10 years longer, so they'll celebrate their 50th on December 28th. So we're really thankful for that, too.
I might add to that Karen does have a hobby. She drives around a red tractor now. I see that different times. So it isn't that she doesn't just stay in the house.
Well, and that quilted wall hanging is Aunt Sarah's.
Yes.
I sure don't want to cut off this good stuff. Anyone else?
Okay.
I wasn't going to show these, then after Mom got up, I thought, well, I guess I am kind of her offspring. I'm Cheryl, and I'm the youngest of Don and Ruth. And I kind of caught the quilting bug about 3 years ago. Tammy, which is David's daughter, was quilting, and I said there was no way I was going to buy fabric, cut it up, and sew it back together again. Well, here I am. This is one of my first quilts that I did a couple years ago. And then when Autumn was born, I got together with a friend, and I'm more of a bright colored person. So we did this one for my first daughter. And then this is just a fun, bright one too that I fell in love with the fabric, so I just put it together. And I didn't have a big enough bag, so I just This is one that's the block of the month, so you get one pattern each month, and every block is different, so it's a sampler. And this was actually one of my first ones too. I don't know what I was thinking. I had a lot of fun with that one. And I'm not quite to the 3/4 inch square bit, but I did. This one I started for a friend of mine who was having a baby, and I started just a few months before the baby was born and decided that it was probably too much to do in just a couple months. And so this one I ended up keeping because I didn't get it done in time. But that was another fun one that I did. I also do some sewing just kind of on the side during nap times and things like that. So I have a couple friends who are pattern designers, and if you ever run across garden trellis designs, this happens to be a quilt that I made that just is on the front of the pattern. So if you run across them, it might be a quilt that I made too. So just kind of a fun thing that Mom got me doing.
Well, he didn't volunteer to say anything, but one of Ruth's other kids, she got him doing something too. Ron, when you water ski, like your mom got you doing, how high do you go? How many people in a pyramid?
Not very many anymore.
Well, before.
Oh, well.
I don't know how I got interested in water skiing, but I started water skiing with a club in Rochester. There's one in Sioux Falls. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, but we compete against them. And I actually am not skiing this year. Our club is kind of renowned for the pyramids that we do, and all the guys are my size or bigger. Actually, most of them are bigger than I am. That's why I'm the one that got hurt. But we do a pyramid that we call a prefab 4-high pyramid, where we all sit on the dock. You know how you can sit on the dock and take off water skiing? We all sit on the dock, and then we build a 4-high pyramid while we're sitting there. And then everybody has the rope, and the boat takes off, and the whole pyramid just takes off. Well, it's too heavy. You can't hang on to it with just the rope. So we're also very accomplished harness skiers, which is where they put the harness around you, and then they have the rope, and it's tied to the boat. Well, last summer I did this. It was a year ago, 2 days ago. I've been doing it for a couple of years, but this particular time I took off wrong and I had ruptured a disc in my back, so I got to visit a person like Adrian, and I got all fixed up, and I'm all ready to go again. But I did take a year off from skiing.
Going.
Well, Lynn's cross-stitch things are over there, so that it's kind of all, everybody does those things. And her photo album.
Okay, Lynn's gone across stitching photo album. Is there anyone else who doesn't really want to say something but wants to point out things that are there that are available for us to look at?
I don't really have a hobby, but Candy makes teddy bears, and she's made over 200 a year for the last 8 or 10 years. And she sells them as fast as she makes them.
And she also gives them away. Very nice.
Right, Candy?
But most of them are bigger than that.
Is this a miniature one?
Carol?
Don't worry, I'm only going to put the tape in.
I'm glad that we're going to make it before 10:13 because that's the time I shut down at night. So I think I can still squeeze it in. I just want to tell you, as an outsider, as an in-law, I suppose I should say how much I've enjoyed today. This has been a really special day, not only for the Wolbrinks, but for those who married into that family. It is for me anyway. And it's been especially great for me to meet some of the ones from the next generation, the younger people coming in, and it's just been a real blessing for me. When they asked what my hobbies were, and Sarah kept bugging me about it, and I said, Sarah, I really don't have any hobbies. Garage sailing would probably be the thing. And then as I'm talking to a bunch of the cousins today, we find we have a lot in common. We all have that same hobby. So we're going to have a slumber party at my house coming up real soon. And we're all going to come and we're going to garage sale the next day. So Omaha, get ready. We're ready to go. Anyway, Sarah just said, oh, why don't you sing, Carol? That's one of your hobbies, and that truly is. I do enjoy that. But I just wish Fran would come up here and join me. So if you know this song, come up and harmonize with me. I would love that. Fran and I just did that one time. We went to visit Fran and Adrian, and she decided we should sing in their church. And so we just kind of pulled out a tape, and I started singing. She harmonized. Before long, we had a whole thing going, and it was so much fun. And so I would love to relive that again. But I was trying to think of what song to share with you tonight, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to close with it. I wanted to be last because I want it to be a prayer that each one of us goes home with. As I was thinking about this song, I thought about how our parents, this must have been their prayer. And I think about my in-laws, Richard and Nellie, and I know that that was their prayer. And I see Orville and Sarah and Aunt Katie and Uncle Junior's, and I know that's what their prayer was for their children. And now that I'm a grandma, yeah, I can't be that old, can I? But I am. And it's the most wonderful thing in the world, and I think it's my prayer for my children. It's my prayer for my grandchildren. And that is that they will find us faithful. We're pilgrims on the journey of the narrow road, and those who've gone before us line the way, cheering on the faithful, encouraging the weary, their lives a living testament to God's sustaining grace. Surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run the race not only for the prize, but as those who've gone before us, let us leave to those behind us the heritage of faithfulness brought on through godly lives. And may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fires of our devotion light their way. After all our hopes and dreams have come and gone, and our children sift through all we've left behind, may the clues that they discover and the memories they uncover become the light that leads them to the road we each must find. Oh, may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fire of our devotion light their way. May the footprints that we lead them to believe, and the lives we live inspire them to obey. Oh, may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fire of our devotion light their way. May the footprints that we lead them to believe, and the lives we live inspire them to obey. Oh, may all who come behind us find us faithful. Oh, may all who come behind us find us That was the unrehearsed version.
Let's see. Let's count generations. My grandpa and grandma were generation number 1. The folks that reminisced for us so nicely were generation 2. I'm generation 3. Generation 4, Ron, has already had their back fixed. And generation 5 is as little as Autumn might be the smallest one here tonight. Jordan's younger than Autumn. Well, I got it too. Generation 6 is Jacob. My daughter Tammy, son Jesse, has a little baby. They named him Jacob. And so he's my great-grandson. And the first one in that next column out there that there's no paper for yet. Now we're going to do business. Next year, if the pattern holds, next year, 3 years from now, if the pattern holds, and I just want some quick questions. Bonnie, help me with this. Come here, there's 2 mics. She told me to do a bunch of stuff that I now have suddenly forgotten. But I guess the first question is, everybody want to do this again in 3 years? And if I don't get enough hands, then we'll ask other numbers. But put your hands up if you like 3 years. Well, it's hardly worth asking any other time frame. That looks like everyone's quite happy with that. The pattern has been recently, except that at the first year, 1993, Alan and Lois and Jim and their family sort of handled it alone. After that, 96, it turned out that shall we say, a remote and a local family worked together on it. And in 1999, a remote and a local family worked together on it, mostly remote, there isn't any really. And it was the youngest and the oldest each time. Now the next, if we keep coming down the line with youngest and oldest, would be Uncle Garrett's family and Aunt Katie's family. And the first question is, and I shouldn't be asking this in public, but we've got to pass this on to someone. Can we pass it on to those two families now? You folks do that? Cool, cool.
We'll give it to Gary.
Yeah.
And then there's some questions about the location and the format. How do you feel? Can we have some comments on the location and the format? You like doing it in say, Stickney, or like 3 years ago, in Corsica? You like? There have been, Bonnie actually came up with the idea of going someplace else. Maybe, what's the university in Mitchell?
Oh, we had just wondered, it depends again on the group if you want to do a 2-day thing like we're doing this time, but if some families go to the university in Mitchell, DWU, and rent dorms, and there's large rooms for group meetings, if you'd enjoy doing that, that's a possibility. But
It's really kind of up to the people that are going to do it next time. We just want to help you to...
It'd be nice to give them a little feedback on, if you've got any input on this, it would be nice if you just let them know how you feel about it.
And when Bonnie and I talked...
Yeah, well, for people who are local, I think it might be interesting to go somewhere else and to see some other site. But for those of us who don't live around here and come in, it really means a lot to come back to Stickney or Harrison or Corsica.
Dave,
and it would be far more meaningful probably than even to go to a very nice facility somewhere out in this area.
Dave expressed the same.
That's exactly what I said, and I see enough nodding, that's unanimous. Now, how do you like the 2-day format? That gives a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Lois?
Yeah, I would applaud the 2-day format, that if you come from afar and you'd like to really get to see people if you're here, and the 2 days is good.
Is there anything else we need to discuss? We want to get out of here by 9 o'clock, so.
Uncle Junior, I believe, and I'm getting older, my memory is going, but Uncle Junior, I believe he was mentioning to me this noon that it'll be Grandpa and Grandma's 100th anniversary in 2003. And so there is some significance to the next one, because that in 2002, because that would be close to the 100th anniversary of that particular wedding.
There's a theme for you to build on.
That's right, that's great. Sounds good. Is there anything else that we should cover? Well, thanks for your attention and your patience. Thanks for helping me to try to bring in, oh, excuse me.
Won't take very long. There is some lost and found things. If you lost anything today at dinner, we have a few things left over here.
No kids.
No kids! I did. I sent the kids home with Larry today, so they didn't get lost. And if you plan on coming tomorrow and you have a name tag with a pin or even a sticky one that can re-stick, if you come for dinner, you don't have to wear these to church, but if you take your name tag along for the noon meal, we have some people coming that weren't here today, and it would be really nice for them to have some names to put with faces. And also, if you saw the picture of Grandpa and Grandma, Merlin and the Rain have the negative for that. And if you would like one, they are willing to get copies made if you'll give them names and address. It's over here.
Okay, thanks. And anyone else have anything else?
afternoon, there were very few of Uncle Garrett's family here, and so it seems like, you know, we did family pictures then, but we should at least get one of Uncle Garrett's family. And I think there's also more of Anne Marie's family tonight.
That's great.
Maybe, were they all here in time? Okay, but at least Uncle Garrett's family.
Let me suggest that Uncle Garrett's family assemble here, remove the screen. We'll just take a minute, but probably 65 people will want to. That's all I have. Harold.
Daryl and Margina left, I think, for that Sarah's family. We should redo that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. On Sarah's family was really incomplete because Daryl and Margina were gone. Of course, we're still missing too many kids.
Yeah. Are you ready for that? Then you're not going to leave
What is this, paparazzi?
Yes, okay, get going.
Do you want a couple?
Yeah, we got evidence.
You can take that picture down on the wall if you don't want to be. Well, it's too late now.
Okay, we're done. I've met you. I'm Harold Baxter. Yes, okay. Doris Stolten. Stolten is a familiar name to me. From what?
Can I have your attention?
Okay, we'll follow.
Can I have your attention a minute? Dad's got a little bit something planned for tomorrow, and some of you have probably heard it, but some weren't here this afternoon, so he was going to tell you a little bit what he's got in mind.
Yeah, we talked about this afternoon, and but yeah, we got several people here who weren't here this afternoon, and I didn't give it much thought, but you probably won't all be able to make it tomorrow to the church service. Dean is preaching, and I don't know what else. Well, there might be a special number or something too, I hear. And then after that, that of course was in the agenda. We'll have lunch in Harrison, and I got a little bit of a tour planned, and some say they think that might work out. My mother's home place, the house she lived in when they first came, is still standing. But the people, Les Greenaways, are already living in another house, and it's going to be taken down before long. The house, it was added on to, but the original house is still there, and not too much was added on to. I think just a kitchen and a bay window, the way they say. And then from the Wolbrink's homestead, and Gerald lives there. Some of you know Gerald and Trina pretty good. And yeah, it was chicken coop on that place. But the homestead shanty is still standing there too yet. And I was by Gerald and Trina last night because I was wondering if you could, if you know them, why, I was wondering if we could get permission to come there. I could say one thing about them. They never both go away. Either Gerald goes away or Trina. The other one stays home to watch the plays. So, you know, they are a little bit skeptical of people. But I did get permission. Now the only thing is they don't have a lawnmower, and they've got just enough room in front of the house for about one car, and everything else is fenced in with the electric fencer. Now we might have to park on the driveway and walk in or something like that, but I have permission. So I thought, yeah, after lunch, go to Les Greenaway, and you come back 1 mile to go past Gerald's, and then if you come to our place, I think for a lot of you like to see the home place, and we'd be happy to have you all there tomorrow afternoon. I don't know what the party will be. I've suggested to Elsa that we better have some poppin' crackers or something like that. Yeah. So keep that in mind. If that sounds good to you, we'd sure like to have you.
Junior? Uncle Junior?
Yeah.
Will we have to go through a metal detector to get on the yard by Gerald and Trina?
I didn't quite get that. I got to turn my hearing aid up.
I said, will we have to go through a metal detector to get on the yard?
Well, they didn't say anything about it. Now, Gerald has been a gun collector for 50 years, I'm sure. He's got a lot of guns around there, but I think we can safely go in the yard. I don't worry about him. And I will say that it is a little bit, even if it's shocking, it is a little bit interesting. Any other questions?
One of these days, some of the technical stuff.
So maybe we met you